Hello everyone, and welcome to the second episode of my video series No Wrong Bodies. My name is Veerle Ross. I am a trans woman. I use she, her pronouns, and on this channel I talk about topics related to transfeminism, body positivity, and my own experiences living as a trans woman here in the Netherlands. Today I want to talk about body positivity and specifically how learning to accept others and learning to have a more open mind towards other bodies that do not conform to the what I would call the cis-normative, heteronormative kind of white beauty standard. How that can help you to also learn to accept yourself. And for this, I would like to share a personal story to do with my own transition history. When I first discovered that I did not feel that the gender that I was assigned at birth did not feel right for me, that it was really not who I was and who I wanted to be. That was very difficult for me. It was a very difficult realization. Not only because it implied for me this entire very frightening track of having to actually, wanting to actually go into transition, which of course involves all sorts of medical stuff, which can be intimidating, but also because I just had a very hard time accepting myself as a trans feminine person. And I think a lot of that came from prejudices that I had internalized over the years of my growing up through the 90s and early zeros. And really the only kinds of representations of trans people that you would see in the media, the only ways in which people would talk about transgender people in general, in conversations, casual jokes, etc., etc. It was always putting the focus primarily on trans women, and always portraying them as either comical or monstrous, deceptive, mostly as the butt of a joke. In general, they were thought of as they're in the media that I had available to me at the time, and perhaps I did not properly search for the best possible kinds of media or representations that I could find, but that's also because I had a lot of fear about this topic, and I had a lot of, like I said, I had a lot of phobia around these things, so I was very afraid to really delve into this and to really explore examples of what transgender people are like, actually. So I had it was really ironic. On the one hand, I knew very, very clearly deep down that I identified, that I felt more like a woman than like a man, and that I definitely wanted to live as a woman. But on the other hand, at the same time, I also was deeply afraid of actually mingling with other transgender people who could have helped me to learn to accept myself, because I had so much internal prejudice towards transgender, towards my fellow transgender people. So what really helped me in the end was that only years later I came to this realization that I actually had everything in my life pretty much set up, that I had every reason to be perfectly happy, but I was still feeling deeply depressed. And it felt to me like I was never truly going to be happy unless I finally started to accept this part of myself. And for that, I needed to start to really confront myself and get involved with other transgender people, and to really seek them out and find support there, the kind of support that is impossible to find among, well, cis people, because they simply do not understand how gender dysphoria functions, what that feels like, and to not feel right in your body. And in order to be able to just have those kinds of interactions, or even, I would say, by having interactions with other transgender people and gender non-conforming people, that really opened my mind so much. And it helped me so much so that, for the longest time, one of the big fears that I had always had was this idea that if I were to transition medically, that I would never become the kind of woman that I wanted to be, that I would never really become this kind of, I had this really, when I was younger, I had this really kind of toxic, kind of very idealized image, this kind of idolized image of what women should be like. It also very much the results of cultural programming, I would say. Well, that was an unattainable goal for me, or that seemed like it was a goal that I would never be able to attain. Even if I were to transition, I felt I will never become a beautiful woman. I will never have the long flowy hair, the beautiful curves, the perfect body, everything like that. I had such high standards for myself and for others about what beauty or what a beautiful woman should look like. And I had such a very specific, very narrow idea. This is exactly that very specific and very narrow idea that the media is trying to project onto us all the time. That a perfect body should be, it should be athletic, it should be thin, it should be white, it should be, it should have kind of hyper feminine features, etc., etc. All these kinds of ideas. It should be able-bodied. All these kinds of ideas are so heavily present throughout our entire culture, and the ways in which we look at bodies and talk about the bodies of others, that we get to it just gets to you. It gets ingrained in the way you think. If you're raised this way, even though my parents were very open-minded and really tried to raise me in a very open-minded way, you're also raised by your culture. You're raised by your environment, by the media that you consume, and they can give you very weird and very kind of narrow and very destructive and limiting ideas of what beauty should look like. So that's very much the topic of this channel, that I want to break out of that idea, and I want to help everybody break out of that idea. So yes, back to my transition story, what I discovered was that for me, it just helped so much to really get over my fear and really go and meet fellow transgender people, and also try to get into contact with trans people of all varieties. I used to have this image of trans people. I just had this image of older trans women, essentially. And a lot of the support, or some of the support groups that I have found when I was looking for support, were indeed dominated by just primarily very feminine, older trans women. But I've been so fortunate to, through my searches for more people who were kind of on my wavelength in some way or something, I kind of managed to find a lot of new friends and a lot of new people to hang out with and to talk with, who are of all different kinds who all have some level of, some part, or a very big part of them is their trans identity, but they're all very, very different kinds of people, ranging from trans women to trans men to non-binary and gender fluid people, And that really helped me so much to open my mind, and also to start to take a much more easygoing, kind of more loving approach to myself and to my own appearance. Because I used to always feel like, okay, so now I'm in transition, now I have to present as feminine as possible. But that always felt like a hopeless kind of struggle. I just have a certain kind of body, I have a certain kind of voice. There are things that can be changed slightly about those parts of my body, but it's also a matter of, you know, learning to accept the things that you cannot really change about yourself, and maybe even like learning to love them and integrate them into like your own personal, like your own way of doing gender. Everybody can do it their own way. And for me, what really helped was to just accept, like, okay, I am just not the most feminine. I am a woman, but I'm not the most feminine woman out there. And that's totally fine. There are many women out there who aren't extremely feminine in their presentation. And I just really identify as a butch trans woman. And that has helped me so incredibly much. I will make a whole video just about that thing and what butch means to me, what that label means to me, because it's really dear to me. So I would like to have a conversation about that as well. But for now, what I just want to stress is, if you are dealing with a lot of, if you, like most people, are dealing with a lot of negative ideas about your body, it can really help to search for yourself. To what extent do I have prejudices about others, about the bodies of other people? And to what extent are those prejudices just pointless cultural programming that is only holding me back from actually having a loving relationship to others and to myself? Or to what extent are these thoughts actually real? And I think you will discover, if you search yourself in this way, I think you will discover that in fact so much of it is just bullshit. So much of it is illusion. If we can just break out of these destructive, very limiting ideas of what a beautiful body should look like, of what a man should look like, of what a woman should look like, if we can just let go of those things and just embrace this wide, beautiful variety of bodies that is out there, and just in all their diversity. The diversity is, to me, the beauty of it. So, I mean, I totally understand if there are parts of your body that you have a deep hatred for. I have and had the same feelings for a very long time, but I would like to really stress that it can help so much to just really like investigate your own prejudices and investigate to what extent they are holding you back from loving others and loving yourself. So that's what I wanted to say for today. And then to close this video off, I would like to just thank you for the amazing responses that I got so far to my launch of this channel. I was just completely overwhelmed with how many loving and really enthusiastic reactions I got to my first very amateur video, I was completely flustered. And to be honest, when I tried to shoot the second video yesterday, I couldn't, because I was too nervous and had too much stage fright. So, well, I hope you join me again next week. If you like this video, please click like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you notice it immediately when my next video is uploaded. So, bye bye.